legs tremble, and every kind of doubt. Mother or father carrying their own child, when you say that we are carrying on the wings of eagles, our lives, and for the ways you used her in her journey with you here on earth. We thank you, too, that we know that Olivia has been embraced by you and carried home to you. So she now sees you as you are, seen and embraced by you fully for who she is. No apologies. Let us feel we're not alone, that you are with us in all our pain and sorrow. This time I invite you to hear one of Olivia's favorite songs. remembering her life. Um, She lived at the Rehab Center.
One of Olivia's dearest friends, grew up with, named Joan, asked me to read to choose her gown when she won Miss Virginia. We always thought of each other as sisters. We later moved to North Carolina together, and she is with the Lord. And on a personal note, I'm going to read my own memorial of Olivia. I first met Olivia Asner at age 14 at Club Oz here in Fayetteville. No one knew that I was 14 years old when I was dressing up in drag and coming out and sneaking into Club Oz. All my other friends were much older than I was. But Olivia always made me concentrated on going to college and getting my lost track of the major and later in my 20s, I started doing drag again in Atlanta. And with the mouth of the South is Charlie Brown, who then became my drag mother. I gained a following in Atlanta and began a very lucrative career in drag in Raleigh, North Carolina, and soon began traveling all around the country. I was introduced to many other people, and lo and behold, one of those people was Olivia again. I won my very first pageant in Atlanta, and Olivia helped me do it. I was crowned in Atlanta. Olivia was one of the ones who was there to watch me win. I was living in Rocky Mount at the time, and we didn't see each other very often, but we always had great times with one another when we saw each other. Let's fast forward to 1999 when I met this very skinny guy at Club Spectrum. And a few years later, we met Catherine and Michael Royal online and began going to a church called Painted Sky. And its later incantation, Blessed Family of God. And then what became Diversity in Faith. Olivia was active in all of those churches. She's been our friend for over 2 decades, but mine has been much longer. I will miss her deeply and sincerely. I want you to rest now, my sister, until we meet again over that great rainbow bridge. And I will be there with heels on to meet you. I love you.
Can you hear me? Hi, my name's Danielle, and I don't have quite the long history with Olivia that I know many of you all do. But just like Olivia, I spent my adult life in Fayetteville as well. So naming all those places, I'm sure we bumped elbows and Spectrum and Brown and step on her heels to tail her dress. But I did meet Olivia when I first started to form the Fayetteville Pride organization. And in typical election, she introduced herself with some sass and was wanted to be part of Fayetteville Pride and having been a part of the community. She showed up. Letting me. This was one of the lessons I learned from her. She was one of the first people to teach me that the Fayetteville Pride organization would say that they were representing everyone, and she was one of the first people to teach me that that meant you had to show up and do that. And that was some of the sass that she gave me was that she was going to show up and be a part of it, and that we needed to be doing more for everyone in our community and not just how typically that had been displayed before. So. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little story and my connection with her, and I'm thankful for the lessons that I learned, and rest in peace.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal. I met Olivia, I hate to admit this, but in 1985. We were friends for 40 years. Today I brought this with me. The crown, of course. The connection is Olivia and I were pageant girls, but with a big difference. I owned them, emceed them, and participated behind the curtain. Olivia entered them and won them. One of the won the pageant circuit. And in our community, we have something that we call passing. Some girls can, some girls try, some girls don't. Olivia, however, always not only passed a lot of people upset, because she did look so real. When we were in our mid-30s, we did a pageant. She was contestant in Greensboro. The other contestants were not having it. When Olivia walked in, they were like, "This is a joke and we're not going to guffaw for it." They had a little meeting on the side and decided somebody had to go to the chat. Not that it today the bathroom bill. They just believed she was real and after their prize money. Before the weekend was over, however, she won them all over, and she actually placed first runner-up in the Miss USA pageant for North Carolina that year. Again, people did never understand or know how to take her because she was that beautiful and she was a pageant girl. For those of you that did not know this, because we were old, her name actually came because of how much she looked like Olivia Newton-John. And when she was younger, she even had the hairstyle. Some of us remember in the 80s, and she had the bangs, the undercut. She was Olivia Newton-John. Like nobody else. She always had flawless figure. No one could change her hair. She was known she was going to win. And stayed that way. She was in North Carolina beautifully for many years. Not only in the pageant system, but like I said, I owned pageants in the 80s and 90s. I also had an AIDS foundation. Olivia was one of the contestants I could always count on to donate her time and her performances when we did fundraisers. She was one of the first that would sign up and do it. But at the same time, attitude and sass went a long way with Olivia. There's so much you can say about a person, but the one thing I want to tell everyone is remember who you were and who you are now are not necessarily the same person. We've all grown, we've all changed, we've all become hopefully better people. Olivia was a prime example of that as well. I moved away to California and Washington for 15 years, I think it was altogether. And when I came back, the difference in us was so noticeable. We had grown, we had learned. Pageants weren't important anymore. Clubs were for young people. We just did not at the time. Nor did we want to wear the heels anymore. It was refreshing actually to see her again for the first time in such a long time at a Fayetteville Pride event. I believe she was with Angel and Danielle was president at the time. And we started talking again. Then there was this new thing that we were all part of, Facebook. And we all became friends on that again. We were able to stay in touch. But over the years, I've been her roommate, her friend, her pageant sponsor. I'm surprised on the 15th today because so much you start to think that you're invincible. There were many times in Spring Lake that her, Regina and she would always stand up for other people to show up and represent. So there's no way I could not be here today to say for her. And in the 80s, if you're listening, Joan, I remember meeting you. I remember you very well. I remember the bond that the two of you had. Even in the last year or so, she always referred to you as her sister, her friend, and she couldn't wait to get to Florida to tell Joan this or that, or tell us about what was going on. But when you see a crown, when you see a beauty pageant, be it Miss USA, Miss America, Miss Continental, know she's up there watching.
There are no more remembrances this time. I invite you I'll tell you, hearing the stories, I thought I knew Olivia well, but I got to hear so many other beautiful sides of who she is and who each of you are. Thank you for having courage I know she always had. Before I get to my message, I will say, the crowd reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. He used to say, it was a Mr. Martin King, he used to say that when you really are touched by God's love, you discover the crown on your head so tall, so high, you will spend your whole life going into it. That crown is how that was true for Olivia, and it's true for each of us. So thank you for bringing that. I know that honors her deeply and profoundly, as does each of your stories. Well, I am a preacher, so I'm going to read a few scriptures and share a few thoughts based on my time as one of her pastors. The first is from 1 Corinthians, and the second is from 2 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15:42. It is the same way with the resurrection of the dead. Our earthly bodies are planted in this ground, and we die, but they will be raised to live forever. Our bodies are buried in brokenness, but they will be raised in glory. They are buried in weakness, but they will be raised in strength. They are buried as natural bodies, but they will also be raised as spiritual bodies. Just as we have borne the image of the one of dust, we will also bear the image of the one of heaven. When this perishable body puts on imperishability, and this mortal body puts on immortality, then the saying that is written is fulfilled: death has been swallowed up by victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O grave, is your sting? So we do not lose heart. Even though our outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. For our slight, momentary afflictions are producing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all measure. Because we look at not what can be seen, but what cannot be seen. For what can be seen is temporary, but what cannot be seen is eternal. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this when we shall not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan under our burden, because we wish not to be unclothed, but to be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be grown up by life. And who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has given us the Spirit as a down payment. For we are always confident, even though we know that while we are at home in this body, we are away from the Lord. We walk by faith, not by sight. Yes, we do have confidence, and we would rather be away from the body than at home with the Lord. So whether we are at home or away, we make it our aim to be pleasing to God. These are the words of God. May God bless them as we read them, as we share them, and as they fill our hearts with hope. Amen. As most of you know, I was one of Olivia's pastors in this area. Now I serve as a hospice chaplain over in Raleigh. Now sometimes I'm asked that role to talk at the hospice, especially children, about what's happening with grandma and grandpa, or my aunt or uncle, sometimes sadly with mom or dad. What's happening as they prepare to breathe their last breath? That is always a hard conversation, but especially with little ones. And I will regularly bring out a little picture book. It's entitled something along the lines of The Water Bug and the Dragonfly. And I'll tell them this story. The story of the water bug and the dragonfly. You have these little water bugs. They're living their best life, playing with friends, sliding around, up against they're gone. We are afraid. We fear. Why am I losing this one, that one, the other? So the water will tell the story. Feels this pull to go up to the water. But when he does, he finds himself going through something he can't explain. On the other side of it, he wakes up on top of the water, somewhere he's never been. Stretches out his limbs and finds that they're wings. And he's become a dragonfly and begins to soar. I find that to be such a beautiful picture for what our scriptures tell us lies beyond us in death. A transformation that I believe our dear Olivia has experienced. Death is not our end, but our moment of transformation that prepares us for a new life we can't even begin to imagine without end. A life that is not limited by these bodies we have on earth, which the Bible describes as being made after dust. But a new kind of body, fashioned for heaven. And you sat me down and tried to pin me down on what that means. I have to tell you, I don't really know. And if a preacher ever tells you they fully know, run the other way. They're putting on some shine. But though I don't understand them fully, what I do know is this, that those who die in the embrace of God's love, as Olivia did, for them death isn't the end of the story. Because on the other side of death is resurrection. Though I don't totally know what resurrection is, I know it is us emerging from one stage of life to another. Like that caterpillar emerging from the cocoon is a beautiful butterfly. And those of you who ever saw her at a pride event knows that often Olivia in this life resembled that beautiful butterfly, didn't she? This idea of resurrection is like us being like butterflies emerging from the chrysalis of this world. Is a reflection, I think, not only of what has happened to her, but I think her whole life journey. This is a journey of expressing on the outside, on the inside, but often people didn't have the eyes to see. In some of those ways, it's hard for those of us who knew her well who knew us there in this life. Those barriers are gone. And there's something about that transformation where everything about you begins to reflect who you are in the inside. No apologies and no filters. Some of that is what's happened with her. So I want to spare just a few minutes talking about some of those things I saw shine through in Olivia when I was her pastor, that I now believe shine through with no filter. No filter at all. The first is Olivia always embraced joy. One of my favorite writers is the poet Mary Oliver. She says, if you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind and ordained. Still, life has possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back. That sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything. But very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crime. You know, we could say many things about dear Olivia, but she did not live life as if joy was to be a crime, did she? She was always rejoicing. Many of you told the stories I heard when I asked people who knew her, tell me about her. They would remember a time that she was at Pride, and oh, she wanted joy. One of the members of the church that she went to when I was pastor, who couldn't make it here in person, told me he remembered the sound of her voice singing. I remember her laughter, and I love it. Olivia did not live her life as if joy was come. We live our life, we're letting her shine through us as she shines fully. Olivia's life also makes me think of the work of Brene Brown. Perfect bulletproof or seductive, but they don't exist in the human experience. We must walk into the arena, whatever an important meeting, our creative process, our difficult family conversation, with courage and willingness to engage. Rather than sitting on the sidelines and hurling judgment and advice, we must dare to show up and let ourselves be seen. This is daring greatly. Olivia chose in her life to be seen. And she lost people in her life for it who couldn't handle someone really being true to themselves. But in every setting I saw her, she lived boldly as she was, who she is, and she challenged me and you and all of us to do that fully. And I have to confess as a pastor that secondly, far too often the church has been the place we heard the other thing. We said the church that we need to be quiet and mousy and really about not being beautiful and strong. But Olivia said, no, I am who I am. The church is beautiful. She recognized that who she is as a gift. It was a celebration of these words of Marianne Williamson, who said, we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us. It is in every single one. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Olivia did not hold back from being brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous, and so many of you have shared how her light shining helped you find your own light. Isn't that what it's about? The final thing I want to mention about Olivia that I know was important to her is it was important to her to know that everyone was accepted just as they are. My first interaction with Olivia was when my first wife, blessed memory Kat, and I were working on starting a church. And in fact, we'd actually done some church work, and I was pretty much done. I was like, I'm kind of burnt by the church right now. My first wife, Kat, she was like, nope, we'll keep at it. Those of you who knew Kat, you could not silence her. She would do what she was going to do. And the first person to respond when we talked about starting this ministry, Diversity in Faith, was Olivia. And what she asked was someone like me be God? Because I've been told I'm not. We immediately told her no. We believe God has for everybody. No one is a throwaway. No one is a mistake. And I know from things I heard from some of you, things I heard from her over the years, that faith that God loves her just like she is, like you are. It doesn't matter what anybody else says about it. That stayed with her this whole journey. And she would want us to know that not one of us is a throwaway. Not one of us is a reject. Not one of us is a piece of garbage. We are all people who have that crown. We carry it on our head. That we're going to live our whole lives trying to live on it. And she would want us to embrace that. I want to close with a story. I'm not going to read it, but I don't know how many of you know Melissa Etheridge, the musician. A few years ago, she told on NPR this story about how her son had died. And it was the darkest thing that happened in her life. How she struggled with how to move forward. And he died in a tragic way, that her son died. In one moment, it dawned on her that she wasn't very religious, but she felt in her heart that her son was still there, beyond the physical, in a place of joy. And she'd been walking in darkness and sorrow, but it hit her that he is in a place full of joy and light. Even when it's dark, she embraces joy and light anyway. She is reaching beyond the place he is and touching his hand. That whenever we embrace joy, I think that it really would want that to us to know that it's true for her as well. If you and I embrace these things out in her life, we are still connecting with that place of joy where Olivia is and our hand touching hers. When we live boldly into who we are and encourage others to do the same, we are reflecting that same light Olivia is shining perfectly now and shining in her own way in our individual lives when she walked with us here. And when we let ourselves trust that we are completely loved and accepted without condition, so we don't need to be anyone else. And we call others to know that. We are letting that light shine through us. And let us continue to let that light shine. This time I want to pray a prayer, a blessing, a little on her life. God of all mercies and comfort, with tender love and compassion, embrace all among us who carry sorrow. Be our refuge and our ever-present help. Show us in that love of Christ that passes all understanding. We thank you for our dear Olivia's life, for her love, for her friendship, for all that she is to all of us who love her, which is more than words could say for many of us. We thank you that for Olivia, all sickness and sorrow are ended, and that she has entered that true home in you where all your children are gathered to rest. We entrust Olivia into your care as a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a daughter of your own redeeming. Receive Olivia into the arms of your mercy and rest forever in your peace, together with all who find their home in you.
not grow weary, so you can walk and not faint. May God bear you up on the breath of dawn, make you to shine in the sun, hold you in the palm of your Creator's hand, and may you feel that crown God has placed on your head that you are growing into. Thank you all for joining to celebrate.